This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day and welcome to another edition of Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today's Wednesday, September the 21st, 2022. Hey, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire Day, if you remember the 21st night of September. Okay, getting on to more important things. Coming up in today's show, we will be talking with Eric Wilson. He is an agronomist with Wyffels Hybrids. We'll also take a look at your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to turn to Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, how did we see the day come out?
It was a relatively volatile day, Dustin. We had the corn and the bean market under pressure most of the session. The bean market did break late on the day toward the low end of the range when the Fed rate came out here right before the close, raising interest rates 0.75 of a point as anticipated. The wheat did find some support. It did close off the day's highs, but it was higher on the session as the world is still trying to recalibrate what Putin's decision to essentially allow some of those renegade regions in the Ukraine to become essentially technically part of Russia, at least in Putin's eyes. And that's got the market just a little bit nervous about what exactly that means for exporting wheat out of the Black Seas, hence a little bit of risk premium added back into the wheat market.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting 24 or so hours. You know, we talked about it this morning too. I mean, because that's got to it puts a cramp, like you said, on the whole world, because obviously something like that's going on. You're going to be talking more sanctions. You're going to be talking more economic endeavors. Is there going to be military involvement? I mean, there's just a whole host of things that throws a lot of monkey wrenches into the whole marketplace, not just in ag.
Well, no doubt about it. You look at the price of like grain specifically, they came off their highs made 6 months ago when the war started. And a lot of that had to do with getting those export corridors opened up, Dustin. And now with this going on, there's just a question, where exactly is this going to lead? And could it lead to shut down all those corridors? And if they do that, that will have a huge impact, especially in the United States right now, because Ukraine is actually selling corn into the international market cheaper than we are. So if the Ukraine can't get that corn out of the market, or this war gets really spun out of control and all of a sudden the Ukraine can't get their winter wheat planted as they're trying to plant right now, that'll also have an impact on our potential wheat prices.
And if it is an uncertainty with Russia, I mean, you got China on the other side, and what are they going to do with Taiwan? We just had a delegation here in town yesterday to sign a purchase agreement of Iowa goods, and they're making that tour around the country for ag groups and purchase agreements. That could throw a whole monkey wrench into stuff too.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, China's kind of in a weird situation, kind of like, they're going to need some of our beans, not all of our beans, but some of our beans, kind of like Europe needed the Russian energy. So it does put China in an interesting situation with the Chinese and the Taiwanese in the United States. But in general, I would say that's probably not the market's near-term concern. I think right now it's more the Russia concern right now. The thing we're probably the biggest concern about China right now is not a war with Taiwan. It's a slowing economy. What's kind of interesting is a lot of the central banks in the world are actually raising interest rates, Dustin. They're raising to slow down the economy. Essentially, as you raise interest rates, you increase the cost of doing business. Hence, the business slows down. You slow down the business cycle. You hopefully put it into inflation. That's the Fed's target. Well, the Chinese, interesting enough, they're not raising interest rates. They're kind of going about it the other way, and that's continuing to lock people down due to COVID. So when people get COVID, they lock them down, they lock their neighbors down, they lock cities down. So China's economy continues to struggle, and that is a big fear for the American producer, I think. Or if it's not, it should be, because if China continues to slow down their economy, the odds are they're not going to buy as many beans as they traditionally have been, and that could impact our amount of sales, plain and simple.
And of course, back at home and a little bit more calm is the fact that we are beginning to see harvest happening in the Corn Belt and the southern regions of it, and there's going to be a lot of question marks as to who's got what and in what condition it is.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Harvest is just beginning. We're 3 to 5% done. We are starting to hear some stuff start to roll here in northern Illinois where I'm at. And that's where we're going to be at. I mean, right now, I would not be surprised to see a little bit of pressure in the market near term I mean, with the Fed rate raising rates, the U.S. dollar is going to go higher. It's racing higher right now, making new 20-year highs. That makes our products more expensive. On the beans specifically, China's been very aggressive buying Argentina beans. Argentina actually did a special currency play. They're calling it a soy peso in essence, to generate revenue. The producers in Argentina, folks, are pretty much refusing to sell beans because they didn't want the currency, because their inflation rate is running at 95 up to 100%. Essentially, the Argentina government bribed the producers by giving them a better currency play to sell beans. They've sold up to 30 to 40 cargoes of beans. Some estimates say as many as 50 cargoes of beans, but then rough numbers, 2 to 3 million metric tons of beans alone to China over the last few weeks. And that is a concern as well, because if China's buying beans from the Argentinians, they potentially maybe sales we may miss down the line. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. There may be one glass half full type of situation with China buying all those beans out of Argentina. Argentina tends to buy beans from the farmer, process them, and then sell the meal and oil to the world. If China is buying the beans, they won't have the beans to crush in Argentina, so that may increase the odds of seeing better exports for meal and oil as the international buyers try to make up those lost production from Argentina.
Now, looking at the livestock side of things, what did we see in cattle and hogs today?
A little bit of market is under pressure right now. The hog market, especially these December contracts, Feb contracts, it looks like they kind of put a little bit of near-term double top in, saw a little bit of correction there. The cattle market continues to struggle at these near high end of the range, and I just think we're more of a sideways range, Dustin. I mean, with the raising of the interest rates, the public sentiment turns a little bit sour, and when the sentiment turns sour, they tend to shy away from the higher beef cuts. So we look more for a sideways trading range in the livestock, both the cattle and the hogs.
All right, Jim. Well, if folks want to talk market strategies with agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
You can reach us at 844-424-6758, or just go to agmarket.net and sign up for a couple-week free trial of our research.
All right, Jim. Well, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, and have a good week.
That again was Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and look at those closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. December corn was down 6.5 at 685.5. March down 6.5 at 690.25. November beans down 17.5 at 1461.25. January down 17.5 at 1467 even. Soy meal down 60 cents at 438.80. Soy oil 91 cents lower at $65. December Chicago wheat up a dime at 903 3/4. Minneapolis up 3 3/4 at 963. Kansas wheat up 4 at 967 even. March oats up 4 1/4 at 420.25. December live cattle were down 32 cents at 150.75. September feeders down 62 at 178.17. Lean hogs $1.55 lower at 94.42. Pork cutouts are $1.40 lower at 103.37. Class 3 milk down a penny at 19.88. And that wraps up our ag market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Eric Wilson, agronomist with Wyffels Hybrids. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Last month, I got the chance to talk with Eric Wilson of Wyffels Hybrids as they were at the Farm Progress Show in Boone, and we talked about getting ready for 2022 and how some of their hybrids have been performing. And if you're looking for new hybrids out there, well, he's got some information for you. We're here at the 2022 Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network in the Wyffels tent right now, talking with Eric Wilson, agronomist with Wyffels. Thanks for taking the time to visit today.
Hey, happy to be here, Dustin.
So tell us a little bit about what we're seeing in Iowa. We know it's been the tale of basically two different environments, east versus west.
Right. Drought is pretty much encompassing 3/4 of the state right now, depending on where you're at. Some situations are absolutely worse than others as far as rainfall, but things are progressing very quickly because of that lack of water.
We're starting to hear reports that there are some farmers either already starting to think about combining or maybe starting very soon because the crop has been dry. And we were talking before we got on the camera here that obviously chopping of silage has been going on already too. So that's kind of really sets the stage.
Right. Yeah. You start seeing silage being chopped. It's a pretty good indicator that the actual combines aren't too far along behind. and it's probably a good idea to get things ready and get them moving and be greased up and ready to go.
And so while the extreme climates can be an equalizer between hybrids, I mean, how is Wyffels hybrids handling these situations?
We feel like things are, for the most part, handling it pretty well. Obviously, at a certain point, when you run out of moisture, everything does give up at a certain point. But going into the fall, we want to start watching stock integrity on not just our stuff, but everybody's stuff for sure. Because lack of water can make some hybrids do some things that we normally don't see them do, for that matter.
And of course, the strength in general. I mean, you want that corn to be standing, no matter how good or bad it can be. You want it to be standing when it goes to that combine.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And this would be a good year to get after things early, especially in terms of moisture, just to make sure that you do have good standability and you're not trying to pick things up off the ground. We actually have a grain moisture or harvest calculator, I guess, and you can put in some prices and calculate. Grain drying calculator is what we actually call it, but you can put in particulars and prices and see if it makes sense to start harvest earlier to capture those extra bushels and have less harvest loss. And in a year like this, every bushel is going to matter.
Yeah, exactly. And also the fact that, getting those inputs like propane and stuff, while we have heard that there's going to be plenty here, hopefully for the fall, the prices, I mean, you got to make sure it makes sense so you can make a profit.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we always want to keep ROI in mind, but keep in mind it takes a lot less propane to dry something down when it's 75 degrees out versus middle of December when it's a lot cooler. So
yeah, definitely. So what do farmers, as they're making their plans now for 2023, I mean, what should they be looking for from Wyffels if they want to change some of those acres around?
So we got a lot of new products out. Definitely a lot of things that I would encourage guys to get to a plot night or talk with your local rep and get some eyes on some new products. Especially in the later maturities as well as earlier maturities. We got a slew of new products, 105 day and less, and then we brought on quite a few new products that look very strong, even in this drought year in our plots, in that 112, 14, even up to 118 day product that we're going to be launching next year for farmer fields.
Okay, and from the agronomy aspect, I should ask, when we're coming out of a drought, we obviously don't know what we're going to get hit with next year. But what kind of things should farmers in those areas be thinking about going into next year to kind of improve their position?
So one thing that I would be thinking about, especially in those drought areas, when it comes to fertility, when you have less bushels that you're hauling off that field, you're removing less P and K nutrients off that field as well. Especially something to think about this year with higher fertilizer costs, inputs on everything is going up. If you're unsure of what your soil test levels are at the end of the year, maybe a good year to take some soil tests, and so you know what you're working with at the end of the year. And it very well could give you an opportunity to actually save some dollars on fertility or fertilizer where it makes sense coming off of a drought year.
Would it also open the door for any disease pressure or pest pressure next year?
Not necessarily. I can't think of anything off the top of my head as far as disease or pest pressure, other than corn rootworm. If you are in those areas where we've had, higher corn rootworm pressures coming off of a drought year, corn rootworm eggs tend to lay their eggs deeper on a drought year. So it's definitely something you want to be mindful in those corn-on-corn situations for next year. And in fact, we saw a lot of this in northern Iowa last year coming off of that drought going into this year. So.
Right. Well, if folks want more information about Wyffels hybrids, where do they go?
Hey, go to our website, contact any one of our seed reps, any one of our DSMs, or someone on our product and agronomy team. We're always happy to help. And those numbers should be easily available on our Wyffels.com website.
And that was Eric Wilson, agronomist with Wyffels Hybrids. Now let's take a look at the ag weather outlook. Well, a lot milder today and a beautiful day here in central Iowa. Some clouds here and there rolling in. Now, there are chances for showers scattered about the state here today, but it's going to start cooling off more and more. The further east you go today, it's still a little bit warmer, but it's still better than the 90 degrees we saw earlier this week. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for us now for the next 24 hours. Well, as we said, definitely milder temperatures out there today as we saw, variably cloudy skies, a little bit more sun here and there. We had, of course, a chance of showers here throughout the day, but that cooling temperature is starting to move its way in from the west, and we're seeing highs today in the mid-60s to the upper 70s. Now, tonight it's going to cool off nicely. We're going to see variably cloudy skies, slight chance of rain, and lows anywhere from the low 40s to the low 50s. And tomorrow, again, clouds and sun mixture, chances of showers and storms, and highs in the mid-60s. Looking at the affiliate weather map, we can see Cherokee will be partly sunny and 63, Shenandoah mostly cloudy, 65, Des Moines partly sunny, 65, Waterloo sunny and 64, Albia partly sunny, 63, and Clinton sunny skies and 64 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been our Ag Weather Outlook. And with that, we're at the end of today's show. Don't forget you can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever we release a video project. You can also sign up for our free twice daily market podcast through Amazon, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and Google. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson and Riley Smith, we thank you for joining. This has been Ag Matters PM.